On this episode of Where's the Line, me and Joseph are going to break down Tennessee's loss to Alabama, and then we're going to look ahead at Tennessee, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, with gambling at the end. This is a extended episode of Where's the Line, episode number 103. Let's get into it.
You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Borgie again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line. It is Tuesday, October 24th. Week 8 of college football is in the books. My name is Britt Dillard. I'm joined here by Joseph West. How are you today, brother?
I have a message.
Hey guys, I just have a quick message for y'all. Roll Tide! On a serious note, I really enjoy listening to y'all's podcast. Y'all do a great job. See you guys.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I just realized who that was.
Thank you to the man himself, Adam Goolsby, for the support of this podcast. He did not send that out of the meanness of his heart. He originally had sent me a video, and I asked him to send me another one so I could play it on the podcast.
So that was out of the meanness of your heart.
That was out of me being a hater, yes. So, Britt, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I hope you are as well. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for listening, sir. I guess I appreciate it, but I'm doing good. I'm alive.
That's right. We here. Coming off a very exciting college football weekend. There was a lot of games that I watched and enjoyed. A lot of people, I don't think, enjoy their team's bye week, but for me, it's so peaceful. It's so peaceful, and maybe Britt will say the same about when the Vols are on the bye. Yes, you miss your team not playing, but you don't have to worry about heartbreak. You don't have to worry about if your team's going to execute. You just get to watch everybody else, and you get to have a good time. So yeah, I like the bye.
Especially going to home games. I don't get to watch much college football. When Tennessee's at home, I don't get to watch any football. So it is nice when you're on a bye week to kind of just sit back and watch everybody else just beat each other up. Because I mean, even games that I'm not going to, I just don't get to watch much football. Because if we win, I'm happy and want to go do something. If we lose, I just play Stardew Valley for the rest of the night, and I'm really mad. But yeah, Vanderbilt was on the bye. Tennessee got defeated, embarrassed, bamboozled by Alabama this weekend. So I guess we can just jump right into that and get that out of the way if you're cool with that.
Let's do it. Tennessee, obviously, as Britt was saying, took on Alabama this weekend. The Crimson Tide. They fell to a score of 34-20. I'm kind of all around the place, Britt. We can just kind of start, I guess, at the start. UT started hot, drove down. Joe Milton throws a dime piece to Squirrel White. Dime, great throw, great pass, great execution on your first draw up. Your your best plays should be your first 10 to 15 plays. That is the
Yeah.
plays you spend
Yeah.
all week practicing. And when Josh Heupel is on his first 15 plays, it's always pretty good, being honest. It just normally is. And he did a good job. The calls I thought were great on the first drive. Great execution from Joe, and a great catch to finish it off on the touchdown pass there on the first drive.
Yeah, the first drive was great. I mean, came out, scripted plays, executed well. Joe Milton, I mean, he came out and was on the money, had a lot of confidence, which was never much of a question for Joe Milton. After that first drive, it was really all downhill from there. You were gifted really good field position twice and just could not execute. Not only execution, but your confidence as a play caller. I think if you're Josh Heupel or whoever's calling the shots over there, it just really seemed to plummet after that first drive, which was really disappointing. But I've got a lot of stuff that I'm mad about. I don't have takeaways. I just have a list of stuff that I'm mad about.
Okay.
It sucks to lose to
give
Alabama.
my takeaways.
Okay.
Go ahead. Continue that.
No.
No, continue that thought first.
I was just gonna say it sucks to lose to Alabama, but to lose the way you did, and then to have to talk about it to people that don't know anything about football, just man, it looked like they were just a different team after halftime. I don't know what happened to them. I'm like, well, my 4-year-old nephew could have come up with that synopsis of the game. I don't really want to talk about it unless it's to Joseph West, honestly.
That's how we keep it real. It's I have a lot of different notes, and like I said, I'm pretty scattered with this, but I'll just start with my takeaways, and then Britt, as you have things to comment, by all means comment. First things first, James Pierce Jr., I believe, correct, Britt? Mr. I want to make sure I get his name correctly. Is very good. Shows good strength and great jumps off the football, off the line of scrimmage. He's got good speed. Actually, he's got great speed. He's got good strength. You watched him, Bama's left tackle, although a true freshman, is still a huge specimen. Okay, him bullying him like he did, even only on one play, or that's the only play that I think people are talking about, even though he did it more often, that's special. They have a special player off the end in James Pierce Jr. That is my first key takeaway.
I agree.
Okay. Key takeaway number 2 is this right here. I want to preface this by saying, if you disagree with my takeaway number 2, it's not matter of opinion. You do not know ball. And I want to make this very clear. You don't know ball if you agree with takeaway number 2. If you disagree with it, you just don't know football. That's all I can tell you. Joe Milton outdueled Jalen Milroe and probably deserved, now this second part, maybe not, but probably deserved to win this game with the way that he played. And I will compare him to a lot of SEC quarterbacks this week, and being honest, he outplayed almost all of them, besides maybe one or two. He outplayed almost every SEC quarterback that played this week, and if they didn't play this week, I took their stats from last week, and he outplayed them too. Joe Milton threw for 271 passing yards with 2 touchdowns, and was also Tennessee's leading rusher with 15 carries for 60 yards. If I tell any single Tennessee fan that pre-game, you take that stat line 9 out of 10 times. There's no way you say that's not enough. I say 2 touchdowns, no picks, 271 yards passing, and he's got 15 carries for 60 yards. I cannot force myself to believe that a Tennessee fan before Saturday, if I would have told you that stat line, you would not have accepted it. Because I think you would have. And you would have said, if Joe Milton does that, Joseph, we win the game. And I would 100% agree with you that you probably should have won this game. I'll get into why I think that you didn't. Which kind of leads me to key number 3. But, Britt, go ahead.
Quick question. I don't disagree with what you just said. I would 1,000% have taken that going into Saturday. Did you, and I'm not asking this to, there's no like sarcasm. Did you get to sit down and watch the full game?
Yes, this was the very first UT game that I actually got to watch every play of. And also, I did want to say this, I rewatched the game yesterday. And that's why we were originally going to record yesterday. And I told Britt, hey, I had to rewatch the game. I still wanted to get some numbers together. Let's wait one more day. And that's why we are recording on this beautiful Tuesday evening. But this kind of leads me to key takeaway number 3. And I don't necessarily know if this is really a takeaway or a big question mark for me when it comes to Tennessee's football team. And it's Josh Heupel's team is 1-4 on the road since they were ranked number 1. I'm sure a lot of you've seen that stat. It's been floating around. I wanted to do some extra digging. The only win, I knew who that was. That was my team. He beat the Commodores in Nashville. No offense to my fan base, but that's not really a true road environment. Okay, I'm very self-aware. I understand that's not a true road environment, and there's always a lot of Tennessee fans there. So that's not even really a road game in my opinion. But besides the point, this team has a problem. I don't know how else to put it. I think this team has a problem, whether it's closing out games, which that's almost hard to say because of the way that Tennessee teams closed out games last year. But ultimately, also, I'm tired of UT fans comparing this year's team to last year's. Hendon Hooker's not walking through that door, and Nico is not Hendon Hooker. And when we go through, because we will get there, when I compare Joe Milton to the other SEC quarterbacks, none of them would play better than Joe Milton played in your system on Saturday either. He missed one or two throws that I will talk about, and we'll talk about the inconsistencies of Milton, sure. But there's no way I could sit here and say that other quarterbacks are going to succeed more than Joe Milton did. And so that leads me to point to Heupel, and we'll talk about some of his in-game coaching decisions. But does he have a problem winning on the road? He's lost to Florida. He's lost to Bama now. He's lost to Georgia last year, which I'm not holding that one against him. But he lost to Georgia last year on the road, and then he lost to South Carolina, of course. And he'll have one game, I think, the rest of this year to prove me wrong, and that will be at Missouri. And if he can win that game, then maybe I say he doesn't have a problem. Maybe his team's just crapped the bed or the execution's been bad. But for now, I'm going to question, where is Heupel at as a coach at second half adjustments? Because I think their adjustments were poor. I'll talk about what Tommy Rees did as well for Alabama. So we'll get into some things. But Britt, I don't want to just me talk about Tennessee the whole time. You're the fan.
No, I appreciate your input and your obvious deep dive into this game. But those 4 losses on the road since having that number 1 ranking, I would feel pretty confident in saying that all 4 of those are on coaching. And you mentioned the adjustments after halftime. We're over adjusting. We're overthinking things. Look at Saturday. You come out and your defense plays great. Tim Banks had a great game plan. You held Alabama to 7 points through the first half. Then after halftime, you start playing zone. All of a sudden, Alabama starts sending guys in motion, and you're like, oh, crap, we're going to play zone. Tennessee's defense, and especially their secondary, though they have improved a lot, they're not built to play zone. They're built to blitz and play man. That's just where we succeed the most. So that's an adjustment that didn't need to happen. You also went to the run game in the second half. You come out at the beginning of the game, and you're throwing the ball everywhere. Joe Milton comes out 9 for 9. Running was just kind of an accessory to Joe Milton being able to throw the ball, and it worked great. Coming out of the half, you start relying on your run game just because you have a lead. Like those are adjustments that are clearly misread and should not have been made. I don't want to blame the defense. I think going into the game, if you told me that the defense gave up 27 points, Josh Heupel's your head coach. If you hold Alabama to 27 points, you have to feel good about that going into the game. But Tim Banks just got completely by Tommy Rees in the second half. Just completely outclassed. You had Tommy Rees at halftime. He was on the bus about to leave Tuscaloosa. His job was gone at halftime, and he just came out and completely outclassed you. Just moving to zone, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. James Pierce didn't play in the fourth quarter. And you've got a ton of depth. You've got a ton of depth on the defensive line, and Rodney Garner's probably the best. He is the best defensive line coach in the nation. We don't have to do these rotations. If James Pierce is the guy, which he clearly is a game breaker, leave him on the field. I don't get it. And that's all of that goes back to Josh Heupel.
Yeah. I will say one thing that Tommy Rees did really well was In the first half, if you noticed, Tommy Rees was setting up what his offense was going to do at halftime. Now, it's easy to say that after I've watched the game. I'm not saying the coaches should have known that. There's no way they can know. But going back and watching the game, I encourage you, if you're a UT fan, go watch it. Go watch what Tommy Rees does with some speed sweeps. Go back and look at the times where he runs speed sweeps. Go back and look at the times where he calls a screen pass. He sets up for crossers and deep post over the middle later on in the game in the late third quarter. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free. I can shoot you some timestamps that I have. We can shoot you some. He hit one over Jermaine Burton off the same play set where he had called a speed sweep earlier. So you have to respect that short side of the field in case they do call it to that one dude who can fly, and I just all of a sudden can't think of his name. But if they call that speed sweep, you just can't leave his side of the field unopened. You have to adjust. Tommy Rees did a great job in the second half adjusting to what Tennessee was going to take away and give to him. Yeah, man, Tennessee simply they got outcoached in the second half. I don't think it's more complicated than that. And it sucks for Tennessee fans because I get it. At one point last year, I was living a fairy tale. At one point last year, Vanderbilt was undefeated at a time. We were going to play Wake Forest, and I honestly thought we were going to get to 6 or 7 wins. Now we ended up kind of cleaning up and getting a 5, but I think UT fans, this is time to reset. This is not me being a hater. This is me being I just think as unbiased as I can. This is the time to reset and say, listen, Josh Heupel gave us a great taste of what things can be under him. But it's not realistic to expect it year in and year out. It's just not with the way college football is set up anymore. I just don't think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure other college football gurus would disagree with me. But until you establish yourself like Bama did, like Georgia has, like you could say Michigan has, like Clemson did for a while, and even look at them now, until you establish yourself like that, you need to expect some up and downs. I'm not saying it's okay for Tennessee to go 7-5 or 8-4, but to be totally like, I saw some crazy takes about Josh Heupel, and that's insanity. Remember where we are. Remember where you were 3 years ago. I don't think that's a loser mentality. I just think it's realistic.
And there are some aspects of that I can see, but I refuse to accept 8-4, which is where Tennessee's heading with the way things currently are. I think there is talent on the field that's not being used properly. And that sucks so bad. James Pierce not playing in the fourth quarter is coaching malpractice. Going in shotgun on 4th and 1 is coaching malpractice. Tennessee,
Twice.
And let's just get into it. Tennessee's ability to run the ball, the reason that they're able to run the ball so well is because we spread the field way out. And we're like, hey, you can either defend our 3 receivers and this tight end, or you can stop the run. Which one are you going to pick? Well, when it's 4th and 1 and you bring in a bunch package, when you bring in Squirrel White, when you bunch him in and you just run it straight up the middle, that's not going to work. That's not how it works. So either take your big quarterback and put him under center or stay spread out. And I'm okay if you stay in shotgun there, but you can't combine both and bunch and do shotgun. That's just unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
I tore Joey Lynch up for doing this at the 1 yard line against Wake Forest, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to Josh Heupel. The fact that you have a behemoth, and I said the same thing about Vanderbilt because you have Walter Taylor sitting on the sidelines, except the difference is UT's is worse because their behemoth of a quarterback is their starter. You don't even have to make the quarterback change. He's 6'6" or 7, 235 pounds, and you can't get him under center for one snap? Have you never had him under center in practice? And if so, are you stupid? Josh lining him up in shotgun the first time was ridiculous, but making the same mistake again is unacceptable from a coaching staff that last year they had no complaints of. We had no complaints of really last year outside of maybe the South Carolina game. And go ahead. I seen you had some betting. Go ahead.
Especially when somebody has got a hold of Joe Milton and put a wrinkle on his incredibly smooth brain that, hey, you are Cam Newton. You can hit people. And that's what he did Saturday. He absolutely ran over people. Anytime he lowers his shoulder, although he still does it kind of gingerly, people hit the ground. He's just huge. And even though you have that, like, let's run a quarterback draw. How about we throw one of our screen passes that we get at least 3 yards on every time we run it? And you would love to run it on first, second, third down. Like, and I think it goes back to Josh Heupel is either too stubborn or he tries to be too cute with his stuff that he does things that go beyond common sense.
Yeah, I think I agree. Also, I did want to touch on this as well. For Tennessee fans, it may not be time to panic yet, because remember that this is the year normally that coaches' offenses start getting kind of found out. I have a stat from the SEC stat cat, Mr. Clark Brooks, affiliated with On Sports. Before the wheelie switch study, which if you're a UT fan, I hope you know what switch routes are. If you don't,
that's the Jalen Hyatt route.
Basically, yes. If you don't, then you don't really deserve to even talk to me about Tennessee. That's not the point. Before that touchdown, though, that they scored on the first drive, only 8 of 17 Tennessee switch reps have worked on the year, and it's for 158 yards. Last year, 30 of 56 switch reps worked for 1,003 yards. Okay, ultimately, my point to this is that they've just figured this out a little bit. Okay, and you downgraded your Jalen Hyatt. Okay, I think Squirrel White is good. I don't think he's where Jalen Hyatt was a year ago. So I think you downgrade your wide receiver, you downgrade it quarterback. It's gonna take time to get it back right, and that's okay. It's part of it. It's part of Josh Heupel. Is he gonna be too stubborn and not adapt? If he adapts, he's gonna be fine. His offense obviously works, right? He's just gonna have to learn to adapt. So I'm bringing, I guess, negative and positive energy to this podcast, but it's just, for me, it's like, hey, listen, don't freak out too much, but also don't be a bozo. Okay, do not be a bozo. I will say that too. We're going to get into what I wanted to talk about. I had several texts about it. What do you have to say about this? What do you have to say about that? I had several screenshots sent to me. Hey, make sure you don't forget this on the podcast. It was all regarding reffing. And I have a very simple thing to say about reffing. And I'm going to go into 3 main points, right? One is that I have disagreed with the way that these games are reffed for like 5 years. Definitely as long as we've had this podcast. The fact that there's no accountability for referees is ridiculous in the NCAA. It's ridiculous. There's no accountability. You get after you just get screwed over and lose the game, which I've seen as Vanderbilt fans, we get an apology letter from the SEC. Oh, I'm sorry, we messed that call up. I'm sorry, that's not cutting it. I don't care about your stupid letter. That's the first thing. Yeah. So if you want to come at me about officiating there, I'm fine with it, UT fans. Bring it on. We'll talk about how reffing can get better moving forward. However, if your coach has a brain, this game never comes down to the refs. If you pick up both of those 4th downs, which you easily should with a quarterback sneak less than a yard with Joe Milton, we're probably not even talking about this.
Or if you punt on one of those and don't get a scoop and score. But yeah, I would love to talk to the head referee, which is a resident of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That is true. I don't have any points in here about officials, because you're playing away in the SEC against the best coach in modern college football. He's going to get calls. It's Alabama. They're going to get calls because they get the benefit of the doubt. Just because they're better players and they're better coach and they're at home, they're going to get better calls. But I would love to.
I think that is. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I would love to sit the head official down and ask him about 3 calls. The holding call on Judy Lally, or Judy Lally, as those. Oh my gosh, my head just had a rush of adrenaline. I was about to say a terrible word. The fair catch call on the kickoff, and the defensive delay of game on Elijah Herring. Those 3 are absolutely horrendous. And I was watching the game with my lovely fiance, and I said some words, and I threw some things, and I wasn't spoken to for a while. I would love to hear an explanation on those 3.
The fair catch rule, I will say, I seen that for the first time just about a week before Tennessee fans did, as Vanderbilt was playing Georgia. Vanderbilt had the exact same instance happen. The other guy calls fair catch. The other man catches it. I didn't know that rule existed. I'm not here to tell you that I knew that rule existed. And I watch all kinds of college football and really never stop watching them throughout the week. I'm not here to tell you that I knew the rule. I didn't. However, I think it's dumb But also, with that being said, I love Britt's point about one point, or one side that I did love of it, is that a lot of times you get the benefit of the doubt because the letter by your head. And now I'm just saying the letter on the side of the helmet. You get the benefit of the doubt. Vanderbilt's corner could lock somebody up, and we'll get a PI because they're like, there's no way that Vanderbilt corner just locked up that player from Georgia. He had to be holding. I think that a lot. But also, Josh Pate, if you don't listen to Late Kick Josh, by all means, go give him a listen. I think he said it best. He said, listen, if you want to be the guy that says Alabama has the refs in their pocket, and I quote, you can be wrong if you want, is basically what he said. He was like, I have all kinds of games and stats that say that they've been on the short end of calls when they've been bad and when they've been good. Also, I didn't hear anybody talking about the refs last year when Bama had 17 penalties for 130 yards. I think most of those are justifiable of the penalty being called, but some of them could have went no call to a call. So I just want to say it like this. If you are that one that I've seen tweeting or talking on your Snapchat or on Instagram about, oh, the Bama's got the refs in their pockets, not only are you wrong, but you just sound dumb as well. So please be better. That's my quote to you, not to Britt, but to you listening.
And what I've been telling people is you knew that it was going to be lopsided going into the game. So there's no reason for me to get as mad as I did. What set me over the edge is Tyler Barron is such a good player and such a good dude. And he has held more than any player I've ever watched play. And that kid does not complain one bit. There is not a single play. He got destroyed on Alabama's touchdown pass starting the third quarter. And he did not even make the slightest expression. He was being choke held, and all he did was just walk up to the line. Let's get ready to defend this extra point. That's all he did. That's what pissed me off. Okay. Go. I said I wasn't going to talk about refs, but I do have some other things I'm mad about, if I can get into those.
By all means, go ahead.
I am mad that Squirrel White was the best player on the field, and it didn't matter. Squirrel White was the best player on the field, especially in the first half. And he deserved a better homecoming in his home state of Alabama. And quite frankly, he deserves a better coach and a better quarterback. I'm mad that Squirrel White didn't get more than he got Saturday. I'm mad at Joe Milton, although he did play a much improved game. I will be the first one to say I do not think this game is solely on Joe Milton. But you missed 2 wide open touchdown passes. It should have been 28-7 in the first half. You missed Dylan Sampson wide open. You missed Jacob Warren wide open. Like I would say more than 30% of passes that are completed are bad passes. It's just he's not a good passer. And I'm mad that he missed those in such a clutch time. I'm also mad at Jacob Warren for not jumping more than 6 centimeters off the ground. I know it was a bad pass. It was over your head. But any reasonable D1 athlete, especially a tight end, catches that football.
100%.
I don't care. And, dude, Jacob Warren, he's from Knoxville. He's been around for a while. You're the third most talented player on the team. Go sit on the bench. You're the third tight end. Ethan Davis and McAllen Castles are better than you. You're only there. You're only playing for the same reason that Joe Milton's playing, because you went through the process. You went through the program. That's the only reason you're playing.
I have several things, I guess, to get into on that. One is that the only pass that I really fault Joe Milton for, there's 2 of them this whole game. There's 2 passes where I say those just weren't good balls. They just weren't. And I will talk about on the first drive, for the very first down, I believe that Tennessee got, Squirrel White, runs a kind of deep slant, about an 8-yard deep slant. Yeah, and it's behind him, and it's right behind him, and he catches it. It's a great catch. But also, if you go watch college football and you look at quarterbacks who have big numbers, their wide receivers are making those plays. They're making the plays that Squirrel White caught in the end zone. And Britt is 100% right. I have a point on my phone that says tight end. You got a lousy jump off the football. You didn't get to your spot. and then you weren't ready for the ball, and that's why he only got 6 inches off the ground. He was not ready for the football. Hey, listen, if I go, could Joe Milton have thrown a better pass, just lobbed it, and Jacob Warren could have probably ran to the back pylon and got to it? Sure. But there is nothing wrong with the pass that Joe Milton threw. 8 or 9 out of 10 SEC tight ends catch that football because they get off the line better, they get to their spot, and they jump. They catch that. Now, the Dylan Sampson route, the out route on I believe the second trip to the red zone for Tennessee, that is a little bit different. When Dylan Sampson did not get off his break good, Joe Milton is throwing to his spot. Now, he still missed it. He still threw it out too wide. I'm not saying it was a good pass, but Sampson didn't get out of his break good. You could argue it was because of pass interference or holding. I think that's a not bad argument. I think that's when they call sometimes, they don't call sometimes. So you could argue that. That's why he doesn't get out of his break great, because of the hold. And I'm fine with that. But either way, my point being is that a lot of the passes that UT fans are pointing to being Jacob Warren and Sampson, I'm not seeing it the same way. And Joe Milton missed some throws. He missed one over the middle. I believe that
he missed a really bad one to Ramel Keaton. It was 3rd and long, and Ramel was streaking for a first down, and he throws it 10 feet behind him, and he had to stop.
Yeah,
that was
the one I was talking about.
Again, I'm not happy with Joe Milton. I'm still not. I think we handle him with kid-sized gloves. I think if anybody's happy with this, like, I tried to debate with people about Joe Milton, and if you come back and say we're 5-2, you either don't know what you're talking about or you're a loser. Like, I'm not happy with, because you had chance to beat. Let me try to speak like a functioning human. You haven't won in the Swamp or at Bryant Denny since 2003. You had a realistic chance to win both of those this year, and you sucked. Coaching, quarterback, you sucked. So I'm not happy with 5-2. Gaston Moore could have gone 5-2. Your best win is against what is South Carolina, 2-5?
Yeah.
3-4. Your best win is against a terrible South Carolina team, and you beat Texas A&M with a backup quarterback. You have not beat anybody. You have not beat a single good team.
I don't disagree with that. That you haven't beat a single good team. I would like to argue, and this is kind of where I'll get to my stats about Joe Milton. And I'll say this, and if you think, and I'm going to speak in hypotheticals. Britt spoke in, I hate to say a lot. He spoke in a good amount of hypotheticals last week discussing Joe Milton, and I think it's my turn. My hypothetical was this, is that throw in any true freshman quarterback, they don't make the first throw that Joe Milton makes to Squirrel White. By the way, just letting you know, in the NFL,
how can you say that though?
I'm speaking in hypothetical. Like I said, I'm speaking in hypotheticals. It's not a for sure. If I was guessing, if you told me to bet it, that's the best way to put it. If you told me to bet it, would I bet that Nico makes that throw? Absolutely not. I'm betting no, and I'm putting not the house, but I'm putting a good amount of money on it. That I would think that he wouldn't make that throw.
I completely disagree. I think that a 5-star quarterback can throw a slant route.
I was talking about the touchdown pass, but that's besides the point.
Okay.
The slant route was a great catch. You're okay. The touchdown pass was a great throw. And also, people, when the throw happened, I saw 2 or 3 tweets that said, that's a slight overthrow. And it's just not. That's not even really considered open in college. In the NFL, you might consider that open. In college, no way you're considering that open. He put it in the one spot only Squirrel could go get it, and Squirrel went and got it. What else do you want from this guy is my question for Tennessee fans. And I will pose this to Britt in just a second, is that when I look around, we talked about, he said Gaston Moore could have done better. I'm going to look around the college football world here, and just to name Joe Milton's first, Joe Milton was 28 of 41, so he had 41 attempts, 271 yards, averaged just about 10 yards per throw with 2 touchdowns. Looking around here, we're just going to name some. Spencer Rattler this week against Missouri, who was trailing the whole time, so he's got time to sling it around. 23 of 40 with 217 yards passing, no touchdowns, and a pick. He also had no rushing yards, which Joe Milton gave you, was your leading rusher. So Spencer Rattler, I would say wouldn't have done better. Now, there are other factors. Who are the defense that you're playing? Who's your weapons? Your offensive line? Is your scheme just as good? That's weapons you have that are outside factors that you have to look at. But I'm just using basic numbers for the time being. Caleb Williams against Notre Dame, 23 of 37, 199 yards, 3 picks. What's he doing? Devin Leary against Missouri, 14 of 27, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Brady Cook against Kentucky, 19 of 29, 165 yards passing, a touchdown and a pick. What numbers are we hearing that's better than Joe Milton's is my question.
Hold on. I'm taking Caleb Williams, Brady Cook, or Spencer Rattler 1,000 out of 1,000 times over Joe Milton.
And I'm not.
I don't
I'm not
know
even
what this
saying that
argument
I'm not.
is.
I'm not even saying that I'm not, but I used to say the same thing about the NFL, right? Is that, or my team in the NFL, everybody, all the Raiders fans used to say, get rid of Derek Carr. Get rid of Derek Carr. We got to get somebody like Josh Allen. We got to get somebody like Patrick Mahomes. UT fans right now, we got to get another guy like Hendon Hooker. Newsflash, guys. Hendon Hooker doesn't grow on trees. You don't get a 25-year-old quarterback with that position. That's a newsflash. Those don't come around all the time.
You have the number 2 quarterback, 5-star in the nation on the bench, and he hasn't played any. And that's why I said this about Jacob Warren. The only reason Joe Milton is playing is because Josh Heupel is too big of a meow to tank Joe Milton's NFL career. That's the only reason, because Josh Heupel doesn't have the balls.
I think that Joe Milton showed why he was starting against Alabama. Actually, I think that's my take on it now. I think that is my official take. Is he showed why he's starting now.
Well, you asked what else do I want? I want him to hit the easy throw to Jacob Warren. I want him to hit Dylan Sampson. I want him to hit Ramel Keaton when he's wide open for a first down. I want Joe Milton to score more than 2 touchdowns. He scored 3 touchdowns in the last 8 quarters in a Josh Heupel offense. That sucks. That's terrible.
Yeah, I'm solely judging Joe Milton based off of this game. Whether that's fair or not, you can debate it amongst yourselves, I guess.
Like, he made a great throw to McAllen Castles at the end of halftime. He had the freaking dogs coming after him, and he backpedals and throws a dot on the run in the corner of the end zone of McAllen Castles. I see that. I see the great throw to Squirrel White, which I texted a buddy. I said, that was a perfect. I said perfect. There was nobody catching that ball with Squirrel White. I see both of those throws, but I also see every other throw in between that is bad. And I would say if he throws, I would say at least 35% of his throws are terrible. Terrible. Yeah.
Joe Milton.
And Joe Milton also, that's why he's – go ahead.
I was just going to say that Joe Milton's stats and scores look a lot better if Tennessee was not second in the SEC in dropped yards. You're talking about scores of Austin P game looking a lot different. Britt and all the other UT fans leaving there a lot happier if passes are just caught. You're talking the same thing about the Florida game. They had 2 big drop passes just that I can remember off the top of my head on balls that were thrown good. We're not talking about balls that were behind him or anything like that. And the Jacob Warren, I almost can't even and I'm not saying that this is like you don't know ball if you don't think this, but I just almost can't even stomach you not saying that's a good throw. It's not a great throw, but that is a very, very catchable and good throw. It's not right on the money where it should be, but that's at least a good throw. Maybe we're not saying great, but I've seen other college quarterbacks time after time miss that throw, just straight up overthrow them.
I think I blame Jacob Warren enough that I never want to see his bum self play again. I don't want to see him play anymore.
And that's fair.
But I think there's a big difference between catchable and good. It's just, man, Joe Milton is sub top 10 SEC quarterback. He's ass. He's terrible.
I think that.
I don't know. You can show me all the stats, and I'm not saying you, Joseph. I'm saying whoever. You can show me every stat in the world. We're handling Joe Milton like he's a high school quarterback. Like he's got potential to grow. He's 25 years old. This is his 6th year of football, and we're not even comfortable putting him under center. Like it's ridiculous. And we're going to go 8-4 this year, and it's going to be a complete waste of time because Nico didn't get any decent reps. And we're going to be pissed. We're going to be really pissed if Nico sucks. And there's going to be idiots saying, "Well, see, I told you, Nico, he wasn't better than Joe Milton." Well, also, we could have went and got somebody better if we knew he sucked, if we actually played him last year. Like, it's stupid. It's a completely stupid argument against Nico. Like, let him play. What are we doing? Listen, everybody loves Joe Milton so much. Jarrett Garantano got absolutely destroyed every game he played at Tennessee. He had some really good games at Tennessee. He cried his eyes out when we beat Kentucky. That's how much Jarrett Garantano loves Tennessee, and we throw him in the trash. And yet we're going to ride Joe Milton like a pony. For what? Because he sat on the bench because Hendon Hooker was so much better than him and nobody else wanted him?
I don't necessarily know if that's my argument. Or, like, I don't think I'm riding him like a pony. Shoot, I've been one of Joe Milton's biggest critics, especially in the offseason.
I'm not saying you. I mean, I have people in mind, but not you.
Right. Also, I will say this. Joe Milton is 23, not 25. I figured that out on Saturday when I was like, wait, how much older is Joe Milton than me? Joe Milton was born in March of 2000. I figured that out on Saturday. So it's just a weird thing. But, yeah, Hendon Hooker was 2 years older than him. I will also say that I think there is a part of truth to what Brett is saying of what are we treating Joe Milton like? Are we treating him like he's a freshman? I don't think so. I'm not holding Joe Milton to freshman standards. I'm holding Joe Milton to a standard of being good enough to win, which is what I think you should hold every player to. Did he play good enough to win? Yes or no? That simple. Joe Milton played good enough to win this game, and if Heupel and the coaching staff has a brain, UT wins this game, and Britt is more than likely apologizing to Joe Milton about his takes on him last week. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to put words in Britt's mouth. I'm just saying more than likely you would have seen a different outcome if the coaching staff just does not let him down. The defense got 27 unanswered dropped on their head. Like I find this game almost frustrating when I listen to Tennessee fans, and I actually listened to a Tennessee podcast today because I just wanted to hear what they were saying, and they're just being bozos. They're saying stuff that doesn't even. I listened to two random guys on YouTube. I couldn't even tell you their name. Okay. I want to say one of them was like Austin B. Vols, maybe.
Oh, that guy's
yeah, these dudes.
No, he's an idiot.
We were listening to some bozo takes, and I'm just like,
what
man, like. The fact of and I could have it wrong because I listened to two separate ones, but so I don't want to say exactly what podcast it was. Maybe I can get that put up here. But whatever podcast it was or site that I was listening to, they were just clamoring for Nico. Just like, Nico's the savior. Bring me Nico. And if you're like Britt and you're like, hey, I would just rather us go ahead and prepare for the future. Let's sit Joe Milton down. By the way, let's just go ahead and say that UT could still win the East and go to the SEC championship. Whether you think that's likely or not, they could. So just keeping that in mind. If you want to say, you know what, screw the SEC championship, let's start Nico. And Nico comes out, struggles, does good. It doesn't really matter either way. He comes out, right? If you want to look at it that way, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I am. But don't come chammering thinking that Nico is going to play much better than Joe Milton, because you don't know that, and I don't know that he's going to play worse. Like I said earlier, Britt said, how do you know that? Guys, I don't know that. But I'm telling you, from what we know about true freshman quarterbacks, playing on the road in the SEC, besides ones that you can count on one hand, they normally don't do very good. They turn the ball over more than Joe Milton does by the numbers. That's not my opinion. That's by the numbers. They're going to turn the ball over more. And I just don't, I don't know. I guess I just don't understand it. Maybe I'll look at the game differently or look at what UT should do this year differently. I don't know. But I personally think, I'll say it right now, I think UT still goes 9-3. I think UT is going to beat Georgia in Neyland. Assuming Brock Bowers doesn't play, I really like Tennessee in that game. And until Josh Heupel shows me he can win on the road, I'll take Missouri in Como. So you go 9-3, and if I recall, Britt, that was our prediction of Tennessee, was both of us said 9-3. So look at it like this. Maybe the season didn't go how you expected. You lost to Florida. Yeah, I think we both predicted a loss to Bama. But if you win some other games, if you beat Georgia, you still go 9-3. It's not like any expectations were not met You knew the offense was going to take a step back. The defense got better than you thought it was going to be. So like I don't know. Maybe I'm sunshine pumping, but I just think that overall the problems that UT fans have not made up but have blew out of proportion are not my main concerns with Tennessee's football team. That's fair.
Yeah. And I think good execution, and when your players outperform, like, I hate to do this, but like Tennessee did last year, they outperformed and they made. I mean, we didn't have any qualms with Josh Heupel except for the South Carolina game. That's a thing, but also I want it to be known. It's not that I think Nico is better than Joe Milton. I don't think he could be worse. I don't think it's possible to be worse. But I am not Nico is better, so let's start Nico. I am Joe Milton is trash and he's gone next year, so let's try the young guy and let's just see what happens. That's what I am. So when people come, the main argument is Nico, he's gonna get hurt. He's a freshman. He's not. I don't. I'm not even. This is not built off of. I think Nico is better. This is built off of. I don't like Joe Milton, and the mind of Joe Milton needs to be studied in a lab. That man ran out on the field after passing for 50% completion and throwing 100 yards against a trash Texas A&M team. He runs out on the field against Alabama and is shooting fake arrows at them. He's 6'6", 245, and is scared to hit anybody until last week. The mind of Joe Milton needs to be studied because the fact that he is not just a broken individual with no confidence is a feat of science and an anomaly of the human anatomy.
Yeah.
It truly
and
is.
I think Joe Milton's biggest problem has maybe not necessarily been confidence, but just his ability to command the offense, which I guess could be roped into confidence. But some things I did want to say about Joe Milton is he completed the intermediate throws, which if you didn't know this, by the numbers has been his biggest struggle. You're looking at 10 to basically like 18 yards down the field. He completed those at a really high rate. At a much higher rate than he had been completing them in weeks past. I think that this game, even though a loss, could be a building block for Joe, and he could very well put more performances like this one together. They need to clean up some stuff in the red zone, sure. Tennessee also didn't run the ball near as well as they had in the previous weeks, which was expected. Alabama has a better defensive line. I think you didn't expect them to rush for 4.5, 5 yards a carry. They rushed for 3.3 yards per carry. On the flip side, Bama, who's had basically no rushing attack, rushed for the same amount of yards per carry as Tennessee did. So, like, I think there's a lot of things you can look at in this game. When I look at reasons that Tennessee lost this football game, Joe Milton is like number 7 or 8, somewhere in there. There's several people I pass the blame to before I get to the name Joe Milton. And
yeah,
that's
he's
where
not.
Leave it at.
He might be in my top 3, but he's probably not my top 3. Just some positives. I mean, Squirrel White, you were able to get him involved throughout the whole game. Ramel Keaton stepped up and was reliable and had a good game. McAllen Castles is a legit target now. I hope that we use him more. Back to the mind of Joe Milton, you come out so confident and you start out 9 for 9. Man is absolutely dealing, looks great. And you throw you're on like the 30-yard line. You throw a pass to Dante Thornton that hits him right in the face, right in the chest, and he drops it. And after that, I mean, I don't know if it's like if you're playing NCAA football and you're trying to go perfect, you're trying to not have any incompletions, and then it screws up, and you're like, well, I've already screwed up. I'm just going to chill out now. It's almost like that happened. But Dante Thornton, bro, oh my God. We wasted the amount of money and time and resources our coaches spent on this guy, not to mention the waste of a scholarship on this guy, is so disappointing. This guy is garbage. He's terrible. He's caught one good pass all year at Florida. Good thing come out of that. Chaz Nimrod looks to be a good receiver. If we're just digging through the cow shit for something positive.
Also, another pass that was not completed,
Pardon my
but
French.
was an absolute dime, was Joe Milton threw a pass to 84, which I believe is Caleb Webb. Is that correct?
Yes.
He threw an absolute, you can't place it in the receiver's hands any better down the sideline. And Caleb Webb was hand fighting with the guy. It's a good no
Yeah.
call. They're both pushing, and he just has one hand. He just couldn't bring it in. It's not necessarily Webb's fault. I like letting the boys play on the outside. So no fault to the ref, no fault to Webb, but just a shout out to Joe of what a throw. At that point in the game, that man was in his bag. He was hitting targets. That's who everybody thought Joe Milton was when he was at Michigan the first time, when he came to Tennessee the first time. That's what Joe Milton can be, and I think that's why everybody gets
Yeah.
really zoned in on him. And also, you get so hype about him. You're like, this dude's a freak. He's baby Cam. That when he performs average or below average, like he has at times, you're like, this dude stinks. And it can't, listen, he's not Cam Newton, and the dude's not trash. He's just not that good. He's an average quarterback. He's an average
and
college quarterback. That's what he is.
It's really sad because I mean I was a general of the Milton militia. I love Joe Milton. I was so excited. I had him as my number 2 quarterback behind Jaden Daniels, which my number 1 looks to be like a pretty good pick. Kind of a side note, but like you've got a guy that has struggled this year, and he comes out playing the way he did, and just shame on you, Josh Heupel, for just killing Joe Milton's spirits against Alabama. Shame on you. You ugly. And Josh Heupel's going to lose. He's going to lose a lot of if he doesn't win both of these games at Kentucky and Missouri, bro. We've got questions. This is 2 games in a row that you have sucked. You have sucked, and you got out of the A&M game by the skin of your pecker. You are so lucky. You are so lucky that Kamal Hadden exists. We
have went an insane amount of time talking about just Tennessee and Alabama, so I'll finish one up like this. If you're a Tennessee fan, pump the brakes, realize where we're at, think about it. Don't try not to overreact, although it's easier said than done. I overreact almost to every single Vanderbilt game, so like I said, it's not easy. Also, understand, once again, Hendon Hooker doesn't grow on trees, okay? I hope Nico is good for the sake of Britt's mental health and for the sake of my good friends that are UT fans' mental health. But he may not be. Just because a 5-star really doesn't mean anything these days. You've seen a lot of them suck. So, with all that being said, my final point is, Josh Heupel, you cost Tennessee this game. Your coaching staff. And ultimately, the same thing I say about Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. I don't care if Josh Heupel's not calling the plays. I almost said Clark Lee. It's his staff. If they're doing a crappy job, it's on him. It's on his job to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards
he is calling the plays. Because nobody would let somebody be this stupid and the head coach not step in. My last point is I know I crap on Joe Milton a lot. We'll see. 2 weeks from now, we'll really see. But for me, I've seen enough.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna
say. I'm just now getting started with Joe Milton. I will say that. I'm just now starting to judge. Could it be Nico time? And I don't think we know yet. And that's where I'm at, just to get my opinion out there as well. Wrapping that up, let's just go ahead and keep it here. Tennessee takes on the Kentucky Wildcats this weekend. I have some keys to this game. I have things to talk about. But mostly we'll just start here. One, Kentucky's coming off the bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for Tennessee. Kentucky doesn't like Tennessee because Tennessee's owned them. Okay? Tennessee has owned this team. Even when Kentucky's had a better football team and won more games, won 10 games, one of those losses come to Tennessee, a team that had no business beating them, but Tennessee just wins. Similar to the thing that I said about, Florida and Tennessee when they played. They just win. That's what they do. They just beat them somehow. I don't know. You can't explain it. They just do. And so that's where I wanted to start, is that everything I say, preface it by saying Tennessee just owns this team. There we go.
Okay.
That's
I want to hear your keys. I want to hear your keys. Let's go.
Yeah, so key number 1 is going to be simple. What does Kentucky like to do? Kentucky likes to run the football. They have a running back who's pretty familiar with me. His name is Ray Davis. That dude sucks. Ray Davis is actually so good. But
He's a
Tennessee's,
bum. He's a no-neck, book-reading, coal-mining bum.
I cannot believe he transferred to Kentucky. That is so whack. But listen, first of all, stop the run. Okay, they're going to give it to Ray Davis 15 or 20 times. If you're letting Ray Davis and that beefy Kentucky O-line beat you up and run you down, Ray Davis is one of those guys who just keeps churning as the game goes. He'll make you regret it. Stop the run early. Do not let him get going. Once again, that's a guy who just a few weeks ago had an absolute monster game against Florida with, let me get that pulled up real quick so I don't mess it up. 26 carries, 280 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, this dude's a game wrecker. Key number 2, make Devin Leary beat you. He hasn't shown you anything to show that he's any good. I already read his stats off against Missouri, but for one more time, 14 of 27 for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Against Georgia, he was 10 of 26 for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sorry, I'm not blown away by this guy. He's just not that good. It's one of those things. Make this guy beat you. He hasn't shown you that he can consistently be good in the SEC. Making them throw down the field, play press coverage, make Devin Leary make the tough throws. That's what I'm doing all day long if I'm Tim Banks. So that's key number 2. Key number 3 is simple. You own this team. Go dominate this team. If you're a Tennessee fan, and if I'm Tennessee, if I'm Josh Heupel, I go into the freaking locker room and I say, listen, we own this team. Let's go out there and show them. Because you just have. It's just the facts. It's not me being a homer towards Tennessee. You know I'm not doing that, everybody, if you know me. It's just the facts. They've owned this team. Own this team, execute, dominate this team. This Kentucky team's not that good. Go beat them.
I like it. I haven't really thought about this Kentucky game much until now. I'm kind of getting fired up. My keys to victory. Number 1, coaching staff, specifically Josh Heupel and Rodney Garner. Avoid Taco Bell on Friday night. Avoid KFC. We need you boys to show up. We need y'all to coach. That's key number 1. Key number 2, we need lots of Gatorade on the sidelines. I want Tyler Barron to have a throne to sit on the sidelines. We need to be hydrated in Kentucky and coal mining country. And number 3, bring the lube. Kentucky don't beat Tennessee. Kentucky don't beat Tennessee. I don't care if friend of the podcast Adam Goolsby comes out of retirement and plays quarterback for the Tennessee Vols. Kentucky does not beat Tennessee. Tennessee will beat the hell out of Kentucky.
Friend of the pod, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. Kentucky can't beat this team, and I have looked like a bozo at times this year on this podcast with some of my takes. So I will say Kentucky can't beat this team, and then they'll beat them. So for that being said, I won't say it for the sake of my YouTube friends.
You are undefeated in picking Tennessee winner, Tennessee money line.
These are my good takes. Although I was a little off on the score, I had an 11-point differential and it ended up being 14. So I would say that's close enough for me.
I did have 14.
So look at Britt. Yeah. I'll just go ahead make the Kentucky recap pretty short for me. I'll give you a score prediction here. The spread is really close. I believe it's at 4.5 this morning. I'm going to pull that up here and make sure that is what it's at real quick.
I saw it at 3.5 about an hour and a half ago.
Okay. 3.5, 4 points. That's a really weird line for me. I don't know if I directly understand why it's at 4 points. I think your Vegas is saying that this would be a touchdown game if this is at a neutral field because home field advantage gives you about 3 to 3.5 points. So they're saying this should be a touchdown game. But Tennessee's minus 180. I like that number. If I had to make a score prediction though, Tennessee 31, Wildcats 21. There I am. 31-21 Vols win.
Yeah, I like that score. I like that score. I'm not going to give a score, but I could see it being. I guess that's not necessarily a low scoring game, but not anything too crazy. But in all seriousness,
The over is set at 51.5, so that would be just the over.
Yeah. I like Tennessee winning by at least 2 scores. I think your defensive line is going to have a big game. I think that Kentucky rushing or that Alabama rushing attack, even though their offensive line grades out pretty terrible this year. I mean, those running backs are probably as athletic as you'll see until you play Georgia. I expect our defensive line to play a lot better game. I will say though, offensively, if we don't play better this week, Kentucky could easily just beat us. If we score 2 touchdowns offensively, Kentucky will beat us. So we need Joe Milton to come out. He is our guy. I'm a Tennessee Vol, so Joe Milton is my guy. I'll say it that way. We're gonna need him to come out and play a good game. Receivers, get Dante Thornton and Jacob Warren, just leave them in Knoxville, and we'll be fine. But I feel good about this game. I think Tennessee wins. I'll say 28-13.
I think you have to feel good about this game if you're a Tennessee fan because you're playing Kentucky. But I will say this. There is one way I get this prediction incorrect, and I'll tell you what it is. One, Kentucky's had 2 weeks to prepare. That does mean something. They've had a week to get healthy. They've had an extra week of film on Tennessee. They've had a week, okay? Mark Stoops might be getting desperate because I think his seat's warmer than it's ever been. If Kentucky drops some games down the stretch here, you watch them lose several games. Louisville will probably beat them. There's just some games they can lose down the stretch here. Will Stoops get desperate and pull out all the tricks to beat Tennessee? And if he does, and he's successful on just a few of them, this game's different. This isn't a 10-point game. This comes down to the last 2 minutes. I do think there's a way that I'm wrong. And Josh Pate said it. If you can't tell, I've been listening to a lot of Pate. Okay, this dude has made me an intelligent football guy sometimes. If I'm out here predicting a 10-point win, that's 1 to 2 plays. That is 1 to 2 plays change, and that score is completely different. That's a tie game with 2 minutes left. That's a field goal game with 2 minutes left. Right? That's 1 to 2 plays. That's it. So don't come on here barking at me if I'm wrong. If Stoops gets desperate, I think this could be a close game. But I'm sticking with my prediction. Don't get me wrong. Vols 31, Wildcats 21. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think Stoops is pretty desperate. I mean, look at his hairline. It's time to let it go, brother. It's time to just buzz it off. I've been smiling the whole time you were talking because I can't stop thinking about that rat-looking pedophile from Kentucky Sports Radio that took his shirt off and gave it to a child after Kentucky got beat in the first round. I also can't stop thinking about that dumbass coal miner who showed up to that basketball game without taking a shower.
Kentucky fans actually irritated me so bad when they played Vanderbilt this year that I have to pray on their downfall moving forward. And I hate to say that, but I do have to just pray on their downfall. So there it is. There it is for Tennessee. You heard what we had to say.
Yeah.
We'll see what Tennessee has left in store.
Next year, if I'm still alive, I think we should have a Kentucky fan on here for Kentucky.
Oh my God.
I think that would be really good.
If they're on here, then you're off the pod. Because I don't know if you can act civil.
Okay,
yeah, but by the way,
that is Kentucky.
Yes, Kentucky, by the way, to comment on who they have left. They played Mississippi State, which is probably a win because Mississippi State sucks. Outside of that, they played Tennessee, obviously, Alabama, South Carolina on the road, and Louisville on the road. If you ask me, I could see them dropping Tennessee, Bama, South Carolina, and Louisville, which is why I say even though they're 5-2, they could easily go 6-6 this year. And so if they do, where is Stoops? I don't know. But anyways, that's all I have to say about Kentucky and the Vols. Moving on. It's time. It's time, baby. It's time. Operation Seals Game 6. Ken Seals is the starting quarterback moving forward. He's going to start against Ole Miss. I'm sure Britt will ask me a question in a second of what is my opinion on all of this. Regardless, Britt was kind of hating on Josh Heupel for giving Joe Milton the starting job, for paying his dues. Ken Seals, man, he did it the right way. In the era of the transfer portal, he stayed at Vanderbilt. I don't think Ken Seals has done a bad job at all at Vanderbilt so far in starting this year in games that we've got to see him in. And so, you know what? I'm not necessarily saying that I 100% agree with the decision, but Ken Seals, shout out to you, man. You got a fan of Ken Seals, obviously a fan of the Commodores, and Ken Seals, shout out to him, man.
Yeah, dude. Respect to Clark Lee for doing what Tennessee can't and moving on from your bum quarterback to another guy. No, but I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's really good.
Oh
You
man,
just called
but no
Swan a
respect.
bum.
Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. I was gonna say hats off to Clark Lee because the first question I would say when moving on from AJ Swan is he's a sophomore. He's still got a lot of time in your program. What does that do to his confidence? And I guess you just kind of gotta hope that he's in the right mindset of being a team guy and realize there's ways that he needs to improve.
Swan, if AJ Swan does not get another opportunity to play this year, Swan will transfer from Vanderbilt. You heard it here first. Swan will leave Vanderbilt. Write it down.
This Walter Taylor season.
Here's a crazy stat that'll break your mind, Britt. Here's a stat you guaranteed don't know. Ken Seals, you know Ken Seals. AJ Swan,
Mm-hmm.
you know AJ Swan. They have the exact same of eligibility remaining. Ken Seals can still play 2 years after this year, and that's a stat I guarantee you didn't know. Let me teach you something, brother. Ken
Really?
Seals, his freshman year was the COVID year. 2021, he played in 5 games, so he's still a freshman. COVID year doesn't count. So 2021, he's a freshman. 2022, last year, he redshirts. He's a redshirt freshman. This year, he's a redshirt sophomore. Next year, he'll be a redshirt junior. The following year, senior. Seals and Swan have the exact same amount of time left. Once I figured that out, I said I don't care which way they go. I just want them to go the way that I want them to pick somebody and stick with him no matter what. Ultimately, though, Swan has a much bigger arm, has much bigger upside, has a much higher ceiling. Here's my problem with Swan. My problem with Swan is this, is that when you watch Swan play, you watch him go to 1 or 2 reads. You watch him, you hardly ever see him get to read 3 or get back to read 1. I've seen Seals do that multiple times. And against one of the best defenses in the nation with Georgia. I watched him do it several times. Now, he made some mistakes, and he underthrew a guy, cost us a touchdown. Does that suck? Yes. But with all that being said, if AJ just went through his progressions better, I think that I judge the decision a little bit more. With that being said, though, we don't run the same offense with Ken Seals that we run with AJ Swan. AJ Swan never had a check down option. AJ Swan would have 4 complex developing routes. And they give Ken Seals a check down to the running back. Swan never got that. Swan never had that opportunity. So it's also hard for me to judge Swan. I also want to ask a question about where Clark Lee's at. If you remember last year, we had another starting quarterback when we started the season. His name was Mike Wright. Halfway through the season, we were like, this guy stinks. And then we go to AJ Swan. This year, we're doing the same thing. Halfway through the season, we're like, does this guy suck? Let's go to Ken Seals, who's we've had around for the last 4 years. And we put him 3rd in the depth chart last year. Like what? So I'm questioning. My point is that I'm questioning: can Clark Lee pick the correct starting quarterback, or maybe he's passed that off to Joey Lynch? Ultimately, though, still on him, his staff member. It's on him. Can they pick the correct starting quarterback? That's my question for Clark. And I wanted to get that off my chest before I actually got into Ole Miss.
It's very concerning that the 2 highest paid state officials in the state of Tennessee can't tell who's a better quarterback. That's concerning to me. At least for me personally, I know it is. But I think moving on, just when you're staring down 3 or even in the worst case 2 wins, like you got to change something. You can't just keep on keeping on with that down the road and that actually come to fruition. And they're like, hey, dude, why didn't you make a change? So I think instead of going to an extreme to some people, not really to me, and firing a coordinator, I think not necessarily blaming your young quarterback, but just kind of making a change there is a good first step. Now, if Ken Seals can't get it done, if the offense still doesn't run as good as you would like for it to, then maybe look at a coordinator. But it is promising to see a change made if you're Vanderbilt.
Yeah. And listen, Seals Team 6, I said it, I'll say it again. That guy, man, I hope he wins so bad. I'll say this. You saw Miami. Everybody knows Miami. Miami's kind of been on the downtrend. Miami's had this problem called turnovers. Turnovers. Well, let me tell you what the numbers say. The numbers say that when a team keeps committing turnovers, they can't continue to just commit more turnovers than the other team. Each game that goes by means eventually the numbers say you're going to win the turnover battle. You're going to. Eventually, the turnover battle will be won by Vanderbilt this year. I believe that, I think. And when it does, Vanderbilt will win the football game, and I believe that does come this year. I believe Vanderbilt wins another football game this year with Ken Seals at quarterback. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but something just tells me they will. So
I like it. I like
there's
it.
that.
So Ole Miss coming up, a team that for Vanderbilt as your SEC West annual rival. Does Vanderbilt hate Ole Miss?
We hate Ole Miss. Their fans are weird.
Yeah.
We don't hate them like we hate South Carolina and Tennessee, but we hate them. Well, we dislike them. I guess I wouldn't say I hate Ole Miss. I dislike them.
But Ole Miss is kind of a team this year that's flown under the radar. I mean, they're borderline top 10. They've got a good, a solid quarterback and a good coach. I mean, there's still a path for Ole Miss to do some real things this season. There's a path where Ole Miss wins the SEC West, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. There's a game that nobody's talking about that I haven't seen literally anyone speak on that is huge. In 2 weeks, November 11th, so I guess 3 weeks actually, Ole Miss takes on Georgia. And all they have to do to get there to be, 8-1? To be 8-1, they have to get by Vanderbilt at home, and they have to get by Texas A&M also at home. Make sure that game is also at home. Yes, it is. So they get 2 home games against Vanderbilt and A&M, and then they get Georgia away in Athens. Don't get me wrong, but they're 8-1 in Athens with Georgia, L.A. Monroe, and Mississippi State left. That's who they have. Mississippi State sucks. L.A. Monroe, they obviously suck, and I know nothing about them. So this Ole Miss team, in my opinion, right now, looks like they're going to lose 2 games if they drop to Georgia all year. They're going to go 10-2. That is a pretty dang good season for a team that I wasn't very high on in the offseason. So
yeah, for Ole
shout
Miss,
out to Lane Kiffin.
I mean,
yeah,
that's as good as you
that
can
would be
ask
a
for
great
Ole
year.
Miss.
And honestly, are we throwing it out of the question that they could beat Georgia? Because I'm not. But with all that being said, it's time for me to hate on Ole Miss and show you a path to victory for the Doors. Looking at their overall season, you've got I don't really know how to say his first name, Judkins. I think it's Quinshawn Judkins. That could be incorrect. I apologize if I mispronounced Mr. Judkins' name incorrectly. But anyways, he is averaging 4.4 yards per carry. He's got 7 touchdowns. He's gained 595 yards on the year. Dude, he's a problem. He's a dog. One of the best running backs in the SEC, if not the best. It's hard for you to be upset with Judkins if he's producing you running in your backfield like that. With Jackson Dart, he's completing 64% of his passes. He's thrown for 1,840 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. I mean, he's having a pretty dang good year. Say that again, 1,840 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's pretty dang good. Also, something you don't really talk about when you think Lane Kiffin's team is defense. Their defense has taken a step in the correct direction. You've got on the year, they've got, let me scroll down here. Sorry. I get down here. On the year, they have 7 total interceptions, where they've only got 4 on the whole year, 1 by their backup there. 7 picks. They've got, how many sacks here? Let me look. Okay, apparently I'm not going to read the sacks off because I just totally gave up. Sorry, they have 25 sacks. They have 25 sacks on the year. Dude, their defense is just taking a step forward. I mean, that's really all there is to it. When you're looking at who they've played, they just played a pretty close game with Auburn, but Auburn's a really tough place to play. They came out on top 28-21. They struggled with another team who's not so good. Arkansas beat them 27-20. They beat LSU in an absolute shootout a few weeks ago, 55-49. So when you're looking at this team, they're only lost to Bama 24-10. I mean, Ole Miss is a good football team. I mean, that's all I can really say looking ahead is that we are going to play a good football team, but you've got things with you. You're coming out of a bye week. You're rolling with Ken Seals still. You're coming off, not arguably, you're coming off your best performance as a football team so far against Georgia and against one of the best teams in the country. I think you have things to build off of. Also, there's 4 games left. This is not as big for other teams, but Vanderbilt is going to play a lot of there's a stat, Barton Simmons said. And when we played Missouri, 40% of our defensive snaps were played by freshmen or sophomore. 12% of Missouri's was. And I've heard the biggest gap is going to be when we play Tennessee. We're averaging we're guessing 50 to 60% of our snaps will be against Tennessee, freshman or sophomore. Where once again a very low percentage, like 10 or less, will be for Tennessee. It's probably going to be less.
Definitely
so
less.
Vanderbilt's a young team. I wanted to state that too, just to get that out there with that. You have a young team. Vanderbilt's going to be playing a lot more young guys. Prince Colley, who was a huge transfer for us, who's redshirting this year. Guess what, though? He can play 4 games. He'll be playing all 4 games. He's going to elevate the linebacker unit. Guess what? He's going to replace one of those white guys I've been complaining about. Thank God. Get him off the field. Get Prince Colley. Get my Prince controlling the D. All right? I need him out there.
Whoa.
CJ Taylor. That sounded crazy. We don't care. Prince Colley coming back. CJ Taylor is probably going to be out for the Ole Miss game. Shout out hometown hero CJ Taylor. CJ, you a dog. I hate that you're probably going to miss the game. But you got Prince Colley stepping up. You're going to see guys like Jeffrey Hugo. You're going to see hopefully a new face, Bryce Cowan. You're going to see guys who we haven't seen. Hopefully we get to see some more Quantavious Gumbo Gaskins, who played a really good game. I love saying Gumbo Gaskins, who played a really good game to be his first start ever against Georgia. Miles Capers is coming along. These are guys that still have 2 and 3 years left of eligibility. You got to at least be happy about that. And so I think you will see some strives towards being better against this Ole Miss team. But let's get into my keys. Sorry, I rambled a lot, Britt.
No, that's good.
Okay, let's get into the keys. Britt, you got any keys? You want to start any?
I got 2 keys.
Okay, go
Screw
ahead.
3 keys. I got 2 keys. Ken Seals. How you manage him, how you build his confidence, I think is a big part of this game. You've shown you're going to ride with him. I think you need to set him up early, gain confidence. I mean, he may need to knock some rust off coming off a bye week. It's his second start of the year. Give him some easy plays to start off with, and then show him that you're confident in him. Let him uncork some. Let him make some tough throws, some tough reads. Mix things up.
I agree.
Give your guy some confidence. And then the other key that I have is defensively, you need to find the combination of blitzes to stop the run and to throw Jackson Dart off. Let's not see any blitzes coming from the cornerback coming from the war in Israel. That's what Tennessee was doing against Alabama. You're sending a blitz from the safety that's standing behind the goalpost 150 yards away. Let's be smart. Let's mix it up with the blitzes. You're going to have to stop the run a lot. Let's just be honest. They're going to get some on the run. They're going to get theirs on the run. Let's just be honest. But you can't let them kill you through there. So I think being smart defensively, which I personally am not, that combination needs to be found. Those are my keys.
Yes. Also, just speaking on what Vanderbilt's offense or defense did against Georgia was, if you notice, what is Michigan? If you look at Michigan's defensive yards allowed, you're like, their defense isn't that good. Then you look up touchdowns and you're like, whoa, why is their defense so good? Michigan runs a perfect bend but don't break defense. Let them get down to the 30, 25 yard line and they buck up. They stand up, as Britt would say, like a cat. They just do. They stand up like a cat. Vanderbilt did that relatively well against Georgia. That's what our defense is supposed to do. Hold them to field goals. We did a good job of that. You watch them do it in the third quarter. We held them to a field goal. In the second quarter, we held them to a field goal. In the fourth quarter, we held them to another field goal. You made them kick several field goals in this game, which I was very happy about. So you got to do that. That's key number one. Key number one is bend but don't break, D. Bend but don't break. Do what you did against Georgia for the most part. Let them drive down the field, but then stand up. Stand up, D. Keep doing. Get better. Nick Howell, I have called for your job all year. But if you can show me that you can call a D like that bends but don't break, sign me up, Nick. Sign me up, baby.
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm in. Sign me up.
Ole Miss is going to bend the D, and they're going to make it stand up.
And we going to stand, and the D is going to stand up. I will say that. Key number 2 is this. Ken Seals, baby. Show us that wisdom. You've been around for a while. You've been around since 2020. Okay? When we was all worried about COVID, I was watching you play 8 SEC games and your team sucked. I felt bad for you. Okay? I felt bad for your team was so bad. Come back out here, baby. Show us why you stuck around at Vanderbilt. Let's go, Ken. Ken, honestly, point number 2 is just Ken Seals. Ken Seals, I'm happy to see you play. I hope you ball out. All right? Key number 3 is this. Joey Lynch, I thought you did better at calling plays against Georgia. I thought your first 11 plays that we called were so good, man. You've had 2 weeks to prepare. Our first 2 drives should be money. There should be no flaws. It should be money. I want to see it. I want to see you execute, Joey. I want to see it so bad. I want to believe in this team more than I want to believe in anything else. Well, but except for Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I believe in him, obviously. Outside of my faith, I want to believe in this football team more than I want to believe in anything else. More than I want to believe in life itself. Okay? I want to believe in this football team. Give me a reason to believe that we can beat South Carolina and Auburn. I want to beat South Carolina like I need air to breathe. Okay? I hate this team. We beat them since I was 8. Give me a reason to believe. I'm not asking for you to go out and beat Ole Miss. I'm asking you to go out and compete and just give me a shot late. Rip my heart out of my soul Saturday night when I'm watching it with my great friend Britt Dillard. Rip it out. Throw it on the ground and step on it in the 4th, but don't do it at halftime. Don't be down 4 touchdowns at halftime. Show me that you can compete. Clark, show people that you deserve to be a coach in the SEC. Show people that you're not in over your head. You've had 2 weeks to prepare. You're going to number 12, the number 12 ranked team in the nation. You're going to their house, coming off your best performance, and you're riding with an experienced quarterback who's a very smart guy. Play to his strengths, defense, bend but don't break, and let's see what we can do. We're 28-point underdogs, okay? You're 4 touchdown underdogs. You're looking 2-10 in the face, Clark. You got nothing to lose. Let's go do it, baby. Come on. This is the most – it took me the bye week and me having to – I was going to lecture Tennessee fans about staying calm and staying level-headed and understanding what's in front of you. So I had to realize there's a quote that a pastor told me one time. He said, sometimes people will get mad at the pastor, but just realize this. We got to eat the message first. God makes us eat the message first. That's what I had to do this weekend. I had to eat the message first. Okay, I had to understand. That's where I'm at. Let's go Doors. Okay, let's go Doors. I'm ready for my score prediction, Britt. Are you?
Yeah, realize, and I also believe in Jesus Christ and love Jesus Christ. Yeah, so
Yes.
I want to hear your score prediction. Let's go.
Score prediction is going to be Ole Miss 38, Doors 24. That's my score prediction. And I did not have that written down. That was what felt right. 38-24 Ole Miss. And that could be horribly wrong, and maybe I'm just too hyped with us coming out of the bye week, and I'm just excited for Vanderbilt football, and that's probably a good point. But 28 just seems like a lot for a team that's played some really close games with not so great teams. Arkansas, Auburn. I mean, I know it's different at home and on the road, but I don't know. I just think Vanderbilt covers the spread here. If you give me the 28 points, I'll take it. So I'll take the Doors covering the spread, and I'll take Ole Miss 38, Doors 24.
You said 28 points?
Yeah, we're 28-point underdogs. I think that's a lot.
That is ridiculous.
I think so too.
That is
I'll tell you
utterly
what's-
insane. I think it's
I will tell you what it's at
35-34,
right
Vandy.
What? He just predicted a Doors win? There's no way. I thought I was going to have to be the first lunatic that did it. We just predicted
35-34,
a Doors
Vandy.
win. If the Doors win this game, I'll be with Britt. So I hate to say that I'll do something crazy like go streaking, but I might go streaking down Britt's driveway. I will streak butt naked down Britt Dillard's driveway if Vanderbilt wins this game. That's all I
That's a
got to
good
say.
place to
That's
do
my.
it. It's pretty remote.
I mean, yeah, we're pretty remote out here. So yeah, Vanderbilt's sitting right now, by the way, because I did not want to get this wrong. Let's see for the spread here. I'm sorry, right now the spread has went down. I got in at 26.5. The spread as of right now is Vanderbilt plus 24.5. That is still a lot if you ask me.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah. So Vanderbilt plus 24.5 there. There it is.
Yeah, that's a whole lot. Are you good? Are you ready to gamble?
Let's gamble, baby. Last week I know I went 3 for 5.
I
had an
also went 3
okay
for
week.
5.
Listen, last week, by the way, if you bet with my picks, I had somebody text me and say two different things actually. One, they said I bet all your games, and they said your betting advice is actually pretty good when you're not betting on Vandy. Thank you for that text. I do appreciate it. Also, I got another text that said I can't believe Oregon just did us like that. I can't either. I watched Iowa return a punt to the end zone and change the channel just to figure out like 5 minutes later that they actually lost because the punter did not call for a fair catch and the refs just bozoed Iowa. Bozoed them. It was egregious. It was egregious. I'm not here to complain about the refs though. Oregon won by 14. If you bet with me, we had a minus 16.5, and we had Iowa money line. They lost 12-10. Heartbreakers this week. This last weekend.
Yeah, tough week for you. I missed on Clemson -4. I hate Dabo. Dabo Swinney's such a clown and a cuck. I hate Dabo. I also lost on Tennessee under 49. And if John Campbell did 3 things differently, this would have hit. If John Campbell had a functioning brain in his head, if John Campbell could block, and if John Campbell would pick up the football instead of continuing to block after our quarterback just got destroyed and fumbled, this would have hit. But yeah, I missed on that Tennessee under 49. So I'm up to 19, Joseph, and you are up to 23.
23. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
All right. Here is my 5 picks. First things first. I'm mentally ill. I'm back. The Doors are playing. I want them. Doors plus 27.5. Give them to me. You can get in at 24.5. You just heard me read it live. Get in there too. I still like the Doors plus 24.5, but if you like getting that alternate spread back to where it was on Sunday, get there. Okay, get as many points as you can. I think that range is safe. Okay.
So you're saying 27.5.
Yeah, actually, let's go back down. Let's just go 26.5. Let's go 26.5 because I have 2 different parlays and that's the first one. So Vanderbilt plus 26.5 is what I'm in at. Vanderbilt plus 26.5. There it is. Next pick. I've got Mississippi State at Auburn. Everybody knows how I feel about Auburn. Mississippi State, though, Mike Wright was the starting quarterback. Shout out Mike. He got an SEC win. He only scored 7 points, though. Not impressive, Mike. You lose to Auburn. Auburn money line. Give me Auburn money line for game number 2. I've got Michigan State at Minnesota. Y'all know I love betting on Big Ten games. Give me Minnesota. Give me Minnesota. Row the boat, baby. Minnesota minus 3.5 at Michigan State. Michigan State is dead. Okay, they went through too much. They're dead. Oklahoma State is taking on Cincinnati. It is Cincinnati at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State minus 4.5. Give them to me. Cincinnati hasn't looked great. Oklahoma State, I think they're a pretty solid football team. And the Big 12 looks like they've got some solid teams over there with Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. So give them to me. Once again, that was Oklahoma State minus 4.5. And then Georgia at Florida. This is the game I said, Joseph, don't bet on this game. Do not bet on this game. This game is stupid. It always is. And every time I doubt Kirby Smart, he beats the team that I said had a chance to beat him by 60. Don't care. Florida's got a chance. 17.5's way too many. Give me the Gators plus 17.5.
I like that last one.
In Jacksonville? No way. Come on. Yeah, give me the Gators.
I just said I like that last one. I literally have the opposite on my bets. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, I like Oklahoma -10 at Kansas. Oklahoma has surprised me this year. I really didn't think Brent Venables would be that good, but clearly, he's got the boys rolling. I like Tennessee -3.5 at Kroger. I like Ohio State -14.5 at Wisconsin. Ohio State's good, man. They're a good team.
Ohio State is good.
That's a great analysis. I like Georgia -14.5 against Florida. That's what I've got it on DraftKings, 14.5 about 2 hours ago. And I also like Oregon -6.5 at Utah. Those are my picks.
Yeah, that Georgia Florida line right now is 15 points. Where I'm looking at, you got them Florida +15 or Georgia -15 minus the 14.5. That game's intriguing, but man, I don't know. I'm probably wrong. I will not lie. I'm probably wrong.
I think it could ease. I think it could go. I could see it being a very close game. Honestly,
I agree. Also,
but
right now,
that's it.
I do want to hit this real quick. I gave a futures bet before the season started. I said put $50 on Michigan to win the national championship. If you did that, you can cash out right now for $84.59. So if you would like to, go take a look at that bet. If you would like to take the free $35, go take it. But I would encourage you to wait. I don't think Michigan's going to lose a game until at least Ohio State. So wait for them to get there. And if you get really nervous, cash out then. I think you could probably make an extra 60 to 70 bucks.
Yeah, along those same lines, if you took my futures bet of the Tennessee Titans to win the AFC South, go ahead and do what I did. Cash out today, and you'll get $17 back of the 50 that you put in. Go ahead and do that.
I also had a futures bet on this podcast that said the second easiest pick in all of betting was Missouri over 6.5. Missouri has already won 7 games, and I had $100 on it. So thank you, Missouri. I'm not going to take. I bet $350 though that Vanderbilt would win over 4 games, and I bet another 150 that they would win. Hold on, it gets worse. I bet another 150 that we would win over 1 conference game. So I'm going to take a $500 beating on the doors. So unless they beat somehow South Carolina and Auburn, which I don't see happening. So I'm going to take a beating on the doors. So Missouri, thank you for not totally letting my futures bets be dead. And Michigan, I guess, because you're on track.
But for a few weeks there, you had something very important. You had hope. You were excited about those for a little bit.
Yes, we were excited, man. What a time, dude! It's been a long podcast here. I hope everyone enjoys this. I think this is a very deep dive into what you've seen, especially in the Alabama game. Get educated, understand what you're watching. Go listen to Josh Pate. I will encourage a lot of people. Give a quick shout out to Josh Pate, man. His podcast is very good. He helps you understand the game. And listen, you don't have to play. A lot of times, I think people get this confused. Like, Joseph, well, how do you know this? You didn't play the game. Listen, you don't always have to play the game to understand the game. Matter of fact, you hardly ever do. So go in there, get yourself educated, and then don't be afraid to let somebody else know just because you didn't play the game or didn't play the game at a high level. So that's my encouragement.
Yes. If you're an idiot, just don't say anything.
Yes, if you're uneducated about the subject, I just would tell you not to speak. That's probably the best option. I've spoke uneducated before and had bozo takes on this podcast. Will not happen any further. Anyways,
yeah,
listen. Anchor down.
This pod's okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say this pod's gonna be about 15 gigabytes here on my MacBook. But thank you to everybody that listened this far. I really appreciate it. This was a fun one.
I meant to say this when the podcast started. I guess I'll just add it in now. Please listen to this podcast. Share this podcast with your friends. Remember to follow us on Spotify and iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. If we get some funny ones, we'll read them on the next pod. Go give us a 5-star. We're going to read them on the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll read them.
yeah, give us some reviews. Let us know. Like I said, share it with somebody. Maybe you want to educate your friend on why Joe Milton didn't play that bad, or you want to let them know that Britt thinks Nico should start. Either way, share it with somebody. Thank you so much. Anchor down, baby. Go Doors. We'll see what they got against the Rebels.
Against Joe Milton, go Vols.